Revolution.
Oh, I love him. Is he going to be back on?
Right now, Mika, introduce him.
It.
You stop that.
That was the scene over the weekend at CPAC following their annual straw poll. And joining us now from Washington, D.C., the winner of that contest, Republican Congressman from Texas, Ron Paul. Great to have you on.
Hey, Ron,
It's
always great talking to you. It sounds like the Republican Party establishment still doesn't get it. There are people out there who like small government.
Yep, it looks that way, but they're going to get the message eventually, or we're going to be in a lot worse trouble. But right now, I think there is a disconnect with the people, especially with the next generation, the young people, and what we're doing up here. I mean, they feel like the burden is being dumped on their shoulders, and I think that's what the vote represented. A lot of young people saying they don't like what's happening.
Ron, you know what? You know what's so funny, and what proves that a lot of people in the Washington Republican establishment are just clueless. They got on the phone with me and they said, yeah, he won, but you know who voted for him, don't you? And I said, who? They said, a bunch of college students and young people. And I was like, oh my God, no, we want to drive young people into the hands of the Democrats.
We don't want that.
Ron, that's pretty damn good news. Why is it that young people vote for you?
Well, I think it is for the future. The big thing is it's hard to translate that into policy changes. But if we're advocating changes that are right and proper, I would say the young people is where you need to talk, where you need to go. And that's where I'm encouraged. When I go to the campuses, I come away very encouraged. When I go to the Hill, I figure, what are they going to do? They won't admit anything's wrong. In a way, they don't cut anything. They don't realize we are bankrupt and that our policies are wrong, our foreign policy is wrong, the monetary policy is wrong. We don't care about civil liberties. But these college youngsters, the students, do care, and that's where I get encouraged.
Ron Paul,
I know the feeling.
Yeah, Ron Paul.
We get that every day from Andrew.
Our young student, Andrew Ross Sorkin, just thinks you are the bomb. He loves you. So let me ask you, Ron, does the Republican Party get it yet? I talk to conservatives, real conservatives, not people that call themselves conservatives but blindly follow Republicans off the cliff. Real small government conservatives like, Red State's Eric Erickson. He's asking the question every day, does the Republican Party get it? And if Republicans take control and win elections in 2010, will they be any different? Will they?
I don't think so. Not currently. You always hope, but I'm afraid. Their opinions haven't changed. Of course, I talk about foreign policy. There is not 3 Republicans, I think, in a House that would vote to cut anything overseas, foreign aid or anything. And yet we're spending $1 trillion a year to manage our empire. And I just don't think it will change significantly. Let's hope so. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but we need more people, and we would hope that the people are sending a message here. But quite frankly, they haven't changed their opinion about believing in Austrian economics. Fortunately, I've had some encouragement with the idea that the Federal Reserve needs closer attention, and the Federal Reserve does contribute to a lot of problems to us. So there we have made some progress, but I'd have to wait and see. I'd be hopeful, but I'm not all that optimistic that just taking over the House is going to automatically change the direction of this country.
The Washington Post's Jonathan Capart's here, and he's got a question. Jonathan.
Yes, Congressman Paul, so you got the vote of young people and college students possibly for the straw poll and when you ran for president, but how do you translate that energy from straw poll to actual policy changes, since we all know, with the exception of the 2008 presidential election, young people just don't show up in the numbers that you need to affect change on Capitol Hill?
Well, they showed up at the convention, and I think they do show up, but I guess it's when they get frightened enough about what's happening, and also, within a year or 2 or 3, they're going to be, in the job market, and they're going to be into politics, and they're going to be in the media. So hopefully, I work on the idea that politics really is secondary to ideology, and I'm more interested in changing people's mind and understanding of economics, understanding of of the freedom philosophy and a foreign policy, but it doesn't change overnight, and unfortunately we need change rather quickly, and that's where the frustration comes.
Hey, Andrew, are you in college Republicans?
Oh,
excuse me?
stop.
I'm not in the college Republicans, not at all. You think I'm some kind of Alex P. Keating here?
Are you dressed like one? Are you in the college Democrats?
I actually am an independent.
Do you? So college independent. Ron Paul, Andrew Ross Sorkin with the College Independents is with us, asking the question.
The question I had for you is the following, which is, I know you're on the Financial Services Committee, and I'm curious, given that we're going through jobs here, we're getting to health care. My hobby horse, as a reporter who covers financial services, is financial reform. Are we ever going to get there? And I know you have very strong views on the Federal Reserve, but in terms of some of the things that we've been talking about that are going through the House and hopefully the Senate, will it actually happen?
Well, for the most part, let's hope not, because it's just going to make things a lot worse. I want regulations, but I want regulation by the marketplace. I want bankruptcies to occur. I want liquidation of debt. I want the Federal Reserve to be monitored. But just adding regulations and pretending that regulations will compensate for bad investments made because we have artificially low interest rates, that won't work. I don't believe that is the job of the federal government. The regulatory factor should be through the marketplace, supply and demand, what the consumers want, and when you commit fraud, you get punished. If you go bankrupt, you don't get bailed out. But the bills that I see going through Congress right now will not solve those problems.
Melissa. Now, Melissa, you said in New Hampshire, Ron Paul gave you a copy of the Constitution.
That's true. I took 24 students with me, or rather, I went with them to New Hampshire during the 2008 presidential primaries, and they were there working all sides and for different candidates. And there was a moment when you actually handed to me a copy of the Constitution.
You still have it?
Which I absolutely, of course, still have as a professor of political science. So I do appreciate this sort of statement that young people are, make us feel better about the capacity for a future. I'm always privileged that I get to spend most of my life with college students. On the other hand, this seems like a stunning overstatement about what's going on with young people. I mean, after all, in the 2008 elections, the vast majority of them showed up for President Obama. It's really their lack of being in. So I guess what I'm wondering here is this really about their perspective ideologically, or do they like you as a kind of character, a sort of charismatic, interesting, opportunity for them to just describe that they're unhappy with the circumstances?
Well, seeing that a lot of people make fun of me as not being charismatic, I think it's all because of the philosophy, and I think that counts. If you look at history, revolutions do occur periodically, but they don't occur without the support of the young people, and I think that's what I'm sensing. But I think in the last campaign there was a little bit of confusion. They were demanding change, and Obama was saying change, and a lot of them didn't look into the significant changes that he wanted, and now I think they're more frustrated than ever. So hopefully that we can influence them to think about the revolution that I've been talking about, and that is moving in the direction of the Constitution. You say I handed out copies of the Constitution. Anytime a young person comes to my office, I always give them a copy of the Constitution. I always tell them, I want you to read this because I can't get anybody else to read it on the House floor. So I want the next generation to. It's a pretty good guideline. It's just too bad.
It's a pretty good read. Also, The Last Best Hope by Jess Scarborough. A good read. Ron, I want to read something, and I put this in my book. It's a quote that you made on September the 10th, 2003.
It's amazing.
You talk about the banking committee, and that's what they ran this out to us. This is what Ron Paul predicted in 2003 about then the bubble that was growing through Fannie and Freddie and the banks. Ironically, by transferring risk of a widespread credit default, the government increases the likelihood of a painful crash in the housing market. Like all artificially created bubbles, the boom in housing prices cannot last forever. When the house prices fall, homeowners will experience difficulty. Their equity will be wiped out. The more people will be investing in the market, the greater the effects will be across the economy when that bubble bursts. Even Chairman Fed Greenspan's expressed concerns that government subsidies make investors underestimate the risk of investing with Freddie and Fannie. You called it right. That was in 2003, Congressman. 2003, 5 years and 5 days before the crash. How did you know?
Well, just trying to understand economics from an Austrian free market perspective, and it sort of goes to show that with a little perseverance, sometimes you can come out winner in the end. And I think we are winning on arguing the case for free markets over government intervention. I'm competing with Keynes all the time. The Keynesian economic system, which is taught to almost all Americans in high schools and colleges, is what we have to undermine. We have to undermine it with a true understanding of the free market, why the Federal Reserve is so significant in both the growth of big government as well as the creation of financial bubbles. Then it isn't me that makes these predictions. It's the predictions made by good Austrian economists, people like Mises and Hayek and Rothbard and Sandholz. They taught us this. It's available, and the young people especially are responding to this and are starting to study this school of thought.
You know, Ron, I asked you before if Republicans winning in 2010 would make a difference on policy. You said probably not. Let me ask you about the top Republican candidate supposedly for 2012. If Mitt Romney gets elected president, do you think there will be much of a change in policy moving forward?
At the moment, no, but if our movement keeps growing and there's enough emphasis on what we believe in, and we're a political factor, which I think we are getting to that point, yes, the politicians will start to respond, the members of Congress will start to respond, and that would put pressure on any president. But currently, if he just plopped into the presidency right now, there wouldn't be that much of a change because he doesn't quite believe in what I believe in.
All right, Congressman Ron Paul, it's always great to be with you. Thanks so much for being here.